So we will have time for some question and answer during tonight's event. So let's get that percolating in our brains. I'll be coming around with a microphone. Now, you might be scared to speak into the microphone. However, I must insist that you do so because this event is being live streamed. So the people watching at home will not be able to hear your lovely question unless you said it into the microphone. You will see back here, we have David from Literati Bookstore. Let's give a round of applause for Literati. They are, of course, selling books. So at the conclusion of tonight's event, feel free to line up right around here to purchase your books, as they are for purchase, and then come around right to this way, where you can get your books signed by the author. So without further ado, let's give a vibrant Ann Arbor welcome to Davy Rothbart and the author of Destroy This House, Amanda Uhle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jacob.
Hello. Welcome tonight, and let's have one more round of applause for Amanda. I'm so honored to be here with you guys on this very special night. You know, Amanda's been a friend for a long time. I've kind of been a fan of hers and the work she's done over the years, and I was just talking to Joe a minute ago, who read this book recently, as did I. This great book. I'm so excited for you guys to have a chance to pick up a copy tonight and have Amanda sign a message for you. As long as I've known Amanda, I didn't know any of the stuff that's in this book, and it's
a lot of secrets. Yeah,
it's a lot, and it's written so evocatively, so vividly, so beautifully, and so relatably. You know, and I found myself relating to so much in this. And we're going to get into the book. I'm going to maybe ask you to share a passage or two here, Amanda. But let me just start out. I mean, can you share there's one little story in the acknowledgments that I loved, and you talked about Amy Somerton. I don't know if she's here tonight. Where is she?
Is Amy here?
Amy's a special woman who's been involved with 826 for a long time, like you. And you mentioned this moment. Kind of your family's going through a bit of a crisis in 2007, and Amy turned to you and said, "When you're ready to write this book, Amanda, I'm going to help you do it. Whatever you need, I'll like just let me know." And that planted a seed for you, and allowed you to start thinking about this experience, your life, that growing up with these pretty unusual parents and in this pretty unusual family. It maybe changed things for you, set you on a new course. So thanks to Amy for planting that seed. And Amanda, I wonder can you share with us the journey a little bit of getting to this day? Because this is a huge thing. This is the national release of Amanda's book today, 8/26.
8/26. I don't know how we did that.
You are embarking on a nationwide tour. It's really exciting. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And so much has led to this moment and today and being here with all of you. And I'm getting emotional talking about it.
You're making me emotional too, Davy. Well, I mean, that's the gestation period of a book. 2007, Amy said this to me. And, I think it takes a while sometimes to think it out. You're doing other things. I was doing other things in all those years. And I worked, I think you mentioned this, but I'll say it again. I worked as executive director of 826 Michigan. I know there's some reps, if not Amy, there are some 826 reps. Eli's here, at least. And that organization does so much good in this community. It's part of a network of organizations for young people, young writers all over the country. And the message, the basic thing, if you're going to boil it down, is that writing is important in everyone's life. And I mean, I really took that to heart. I didn't identify entirely as a writer until after doing that work that I did here in this community for 11 years. And sometimes it takes a while, like 15-ish years-ish.
Carry us through those 18 years. When did you start putting pen to paper? When, when did the book writing process begin for you?
This book is, as you probably know, it's about my parents. It's about my mom and dad for the most part. It's a memoir, so it's from my perspective and it's my lens. But I would say long before even Amy said that to me, I knew that my parents were extraordinary people. They were different in some really strange, flawed ways, right, that I get into in the book. But they were also exuberant people, kind of vibrant people. And I knew that. And they treated our family and our household as something different and exceptional. They behaved in ways that are very non-standard, I think, for most people. And I kind of knew that. So I knew that for a long time. Amy made this suggestion to me. And then my parents passed away. I'm spoiling the end of the book for everybody who hasn't read it.
It's in the first chapter, too, though, so it's
chapter.
not too big a spoiler. Yeah.
They did pass away in 2013 and 2015. So at this point, they've been gone 10 years plus. The longer they were gone, the more I began to sort of question some of what I experienced as a kid. My dad was an exaggerator extraordinaire, a schemer in many ways. I'll give you a quick example. I remember this story from 1983. My dad, we lived on Long Island, New York. If you know where that is, it's like outside the city, sort of the suburbs. My dad took a job in New Jersey, which meant he had to commute from Long Island through Manhattan to New Jersey, and then in the afternoon come back. This is classic my parents' decision-making kind of style. And he came home one day in 1983, and he said, I stopped in Greenwich Village, and I bought an oil derrick for us, and we're going to be wealthy now. Like, this is the answer to all of our problems. And I had remembered that along with this story, there was a cowboy hat that I used to wear when I was about 5. And, that seemed, looking back, I thought, that's improbable. Like, that might have happened, but that seems really weird. And I thought maybe my father just bought a cowboy hat and not an oil derrick in Texas. And so the process of this book was sort of looking back at some of those wild stories I remember and doing some research. And so I found a photo of my father in Texas with an oil derrick behind him. And I found lots of photos of me wearing that hat. But for the most part, I think I proved that he did that. It didn't work out. We lost money on this deal. I don't know if that was clear, but...
What okay, I'm jumping ahead.
Jump.
This isn't a question I even had written down, but what was the most fanciful thing that he said to you that actually checked out?
Oh, Davy, all of it. You know what was, a few people have asked me what surprised me in my research. So a lot of the book is researched, right? I looked at our photos, letters, I looked at newspapers, as much as I could to sort of prove what happened with my parents in all these years. And I was never wrong. All the weird stuff I remembered, I found it all. It was all there. I mean, there was one single story, really, and it's the most insignificant thing, but I'll remember it forever. There was one thing that I couldn't prove, which was how my dad got this scar that he had, this notable scar on his cheek. I remember it one way, my brother remembers it a different way, which probably tells you that he told each of us a different story about it, but that's the only thing, and there was no documentation about that. But everything else checked out.
We have a lot of writers in this room. We have, I won't say aspiring writers, because anyone that writes is a writer.
Right on.
But we have people who are maybe working on new projects on the early stages. Maybe something's been germinating for a long time with them. Talk about carrying this through from that idea. When did you carve out time? You're an incredibly busy person. You have a lot going on. How did you find a way to do that?
As I said before, I really was thinking about this book and writing, I would say, toward it for years, many years. I thought about it, and I thought about a shape to give this story, which is kind of this incredible journey that my parents took in their marriage. It was 1975 until my mother's death in 2015. So it's a big story. It's a long, many years elapsed. I didn't really know how to do it. And so I tried things. And this is the best writing advice ever, right? Just like sit down and try things. And I tried organizing it by kind of theme. There's a lot of money trouble in the book. There's a lot of food, like expired food and like food stuff. I tried organizing it in different ways. I finally hit on chronology, the most daring format for a long-form book. And I just thought, what if I just told the story? What if I just told what happened in my parents' lives? So I sat down to do it. I know exactly when. It was Memorial Day weekend of 2021. The pandemic helped a lot with my writing because my social life was minimal at the time. And I had this free Saturday, and I sat down and I started working on it, and it felt right. You know how sometimes you try things and you try things and you try things, and you have to keep going because it doesn't feel right? It felt right on that Saturday. And then I kept going, and I have to give a lot of credit to my husband, Frank Uhle, who's here too. And the reason I can give him credit for lots of things, but a big one is that Saturday mornings for 2 years, I wrote this book. It just kept feeling right, and I kept carving out those Saturday mornings. So with very few exceptions, that's when I wrote the book.
I'm so glad you explained that, because people often ask me, I say, I have a book in me, but I can't find the time to write it. And I say, a book, no one has a year with nothing on their plate to just sit back and write a book. But it's about being vigilant, finding that 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week that you can put aside and really protect that time and just be consistent week after week after week after week, pile up. You might write a paragraph, 1 2-hour block.
Keep going.
And the next week, all of a sudden 4 pages, 10 pages pops out. Yeah. And so it's about that consistency. And so that's great for you to share that with us.
Yeah.
Just how, it accumulated over the course of all these small writing sessions that you found time to.
Small sessions, few long ones in there, here and there. Few Saturdays I had plans I couldn't change, but for the most part, it was just that Saturday morning. And my daughter was great about it. My husband was great about it. They knew what I was up to, and they believed in it. And I mean, that's the thing, right, for writers, is to have someone who says, yeah, that's a good idea, I believe in it. That's what Amy did for me, and that's what my family did, too.
Absolutely. Could we hear, a page of the book? And because I want to dig into the down and dirty. I want to get really in there and all the stuff that emerges. But share a little bit of this with our audience here so they can get a taste for it.
I almost can't decide which part to read, but I think I will.
You could both.
All of it, yeah.
Just start at page 1.
Here's what I'll do.
I got 2 weeks for the live audio book.
Oh, good. I think I'll start with this is a part of our lives that happened in about 1991, and it was a weird and a dark time. There were some weird dark times. There were some fun ones, but we had been quite wealthy in the mid '80s. My dad did very well. We lived in a home that was 6,800 square feet, just a wild place. And things were going well for a while, and then they weren't. And so we had to leave that house. We went to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and my father started in the seminary there. And he was set on becoming a Lutheran pastor, which he eventually was. And money was tight. And at this point, it was clear that in addition to the sort of money problems and housing problems that we had, one of the problems in my family was that my mom had a tendency not just to compulsively shop, but to hoard and to keep stuff around. So I'm going to read some of that. There's a gross out passage here, which a friend of mine today convinced me to read a gross out passage.
We can take it.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Exit's right there, but you guys can handle it.
Okay. None of us ever knew whether Mom's hoarding and the related compulsive shopping for food and fabric and clothes resulted from her happy times or her miserable times. The need to buy things and stockpile them in our home was far-reaching and profound. Our house filled. We never called it hoarding. It was clutter. Our first couple of years in Fort Wayne were sparsely populated compared to Martinsville, but Mom's work schedule and her new income from her part-time job meant she'd swing by Kroger on her way home for a few things or stop by a dress shop around the corner from the seminary. She rarely ventured to that part of town without coming home with a garment bag. The hot tub, I need to explain this part. We lived in 2 houses with hot tubs. It's very unusual, especially for our income, but this sort of modest house that we were renting had an enclosed porch with a hot tub, and we never used the hot tub, as will become clear in a moment. The hot tub in the indoor porch had not yet been used, and it was hard to imagine doing so now. Mom's grocery runs had filled every kitchen cabinet, and much of the kitchen floor was covered in bags of canned goods and boxed dinners. including some from the food bank we still visited. Overflow food was stacked inaccessibly onto the hot tub cover, and when new bags arrived, they always did, older ones were pushed toward the center of the hot tub where they were impossible to reach. In time, the nucleus of this food mound smelled of rotting broccoli, eggs purchased 4 months earlier, and once frozen chicken TV dinners gone soft and pungent. Mom got another job at the dress shop she liked, reasoning that we could use some extra income, and if she worked there weekend afternoons, she'd enjoy a discount. In the end, the net was not in our favor. Between nursing school, her hospital shifts, and the store, she was never home. When she was, she lay flat on the couch, elevating her aching feet. She stood all day at both the hospital and in the shop, and when her discounted purchases were subtracted from her dress shop paycheck, we sometimes owed the store more money. Mom's schedule was generally incompatible with her making dinner. We had heaps of food in all corners of our house, but neither she nor Dad ever felt like cooking it. The situation gave me that hollow and ill feeling in my troubled dreams when I had to empty out our house of all its weighty possessions. I had an aversion to the waste, for one thing, but expressing it never ended up well. I would ask if we could cook some of the food in the house instead of getting Arby's or Olive Garden, and I could see the money drain we'd been in since Martinsville and could remember the bills arriving in the mail and getting stacked on the hot tub, unopened. I wanted to help us avoid more problems. But instead of understanding whatever complex storm had gotten us here, hungry and in a house stuffed with food, I just cooked it. And that starts the part where I started kind of doing some of the parent stuff in my house when I was 11 or 12 because nobody was cooking the food.
It's interesting, this tendency to hoard. I'm familiar with it. My dad grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, in extreme poverty. His in some ways similar to your parents. His mom would never pay rent. They basically move in one place, 3 months later, move to the next. So he lived in something like 40 places growing up.
That's so familiar.
Yeah,
That's
right, and he too had the tendency to hoard, not at the levels probably I think of your mom, but you there's a line where you distill it so beautifully, I think, where you're both. It's like the entire book. It's incisive while being generous in spirit, because you said, your mom, you come to realize that your mom, in all of this hoarding, which is crazy and troubling and creates difficulty for you and your family, you said that she feels more secure and happy by avoiding a feeling of scarcity. And I thought that was such a beautiful line. And I wonder if you can talk more about both the challenge of dealing with all these mounds of spoiling stuff, and even what happens at the end. It's in the first chapter.
He's not spoiling anything. He's being really good about just saying from the beginning. My mom's stuff was a real, I would say it was the biggest challenge of my childhood. But I think, upon reflection, it wasn't the stuff. And as a kid, I was always trying to deal with the stuff, right? I was trying to clean it up, clean the fridge, or I thought I was being helpful. She didn't really like it when you cleaned up the stuff. But I wanted the stuff to be dealt with so that I would feel better, and so that our house was sort of more functional. We could have people over. But it really wasn't the stuff that was hard. It was the feeling for me of not being comfortable. And I think that's what I've really tried to change in my own life as an adult, is that sense of comfort that you have in your home. Whatever your home looks like, if it's tidy or not, if you collect things, if you can walk into whatever kind of home you live in and kind of let your hair down and relax, you're in a good place. And that's what I didn't have, because there was stuff. There was so rarely was our dining table clear to sit down and have a plate of food. There were bags under the table. There was sewing projects on the table. You could maybe sit on the couch, but you would usually hit a can of baked beans would hit in your back. It was just my mom had canned and boxed food all over. So it was kind of funny, but it was just uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, and hoarding is this interesting thing because it's sort of invisible. You can be out in the world doing your thing, interacting with people, and people don't necessarily know what your house looks like.
My parents had a lot of friends and were successful outside the house. Yeah, totally.
for the last 20 years, I've been collecting trash, making this magazine called Found Magazine. People send me their trash that they find. Thank you from all around the country, and my house sometimes can start to look the way you've described it. and it only hit me the other day when my son wanted to invite a friend over to play, and he said, "But where would we have space?" And I was like, "Okay, I gotta make a change." Yeah. I avoid I took pride in like there was no food trash. There was nothing like
good for you.
Spoiling.
That's good.
But papers and other stuff can still make it feel so cluttered that it's hard to pull out a project and work on that. So so I appreciated your honesty and your candor about just what it was like to grow up in that environment and also how it made you feel.
And I should also say, lest anyone think that I'm the neatest, tidiest, most Spartan housekeeper ever. I'm really not. I do my best. But we have stuff in our house. We have a lot of books. We have a lot of records, thanks to Frank also. But the difference is like if it's stuff in your life that gives you joy and that you're using and you have a project. Davy publishes a great magazine. I don't know if people know about Found Magazine. We should talk more about that. But if it's for a purpose and it's not interrupting your life, that's okay. But if it's causing, discomfort for your family members and if it's interrupting who you are and how you live in the world, which it absolutely was for my parents. They couldn't afford the stuff we were getting and it was in the way, in a big way. It's different.
Let's dig into some more stuff, but can you share another passage with us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Wait, now I have to think about what to share. I can do this. I need my glasses. Just give me a moment. I thought maybe I would share a little bit about, so we had this thing, this is around the same time as the other passage I read, which is like around 1990. We had made this move and were in need of cash, right? And my dad got hooked up with a mystery shopping. Anybody familiar with like a mystery shopper situation? So this was a mystery shopper situation for a fast food fried chicken restaurant that we got to go to. And we got a free meal once or twice a week, and we got $25. I need to find my page, so give me one moment. I had gone away from this page, so.
Let me do something while Amanda's finding this page. Yeah. There's an email list back. I think it's back there on the Literati table. Could you start passing that around the room? Amanda is going to update you with emails just periodically, letting you know about her. Yeah, every once in a great while, but updating you on her book, her tour, other projects she's working on. So please, if you're here today, if you care about Amanda and you want to know what's going on with her and her new projects and this project, which is launching today, please make sure you get your name and email on that list that's going around.
Are we ready? The restaurant was called Lee's Famous Recipe Fried Chicken, and this is from 1990. We had still, we had retained some of the vestiges of our rich people lifestyle, because we just kept the leased car that we couldn't afford. So we're a very poor family driving in a Lincoln Town Car. It was Navy, it was massive, and we drove this around all over Fort Wayne. At twilight, the long, heavy town car inched into the parking lot of Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. Dad parked it between a Ford Focus and a jalopy of unknown provenance, its tailpipe held on with a bent coat hanger. Mom reviewed our instructions. "Don't let on," she said for maybe the 14th time that day. "We can't let on." Adam, my little brother, reverting to his early childhood fascination with the military, saluted from the back seat. Mom had a folded sheaf of printed pages in her hand and several pens in her other fist. She made to leave, and Dad stopped her, rolling his eyes. "Sandy," he smiled. He loved her so very much. They had been married for 15 years, and thus were several years deep into the wordless communication of the long married. Dad looked at the paperwork she held, emblazoned with the Lee's logo and the logo of the mystery shopper company that would be paying for our dinner. Tonight, we were their emissaries. Dad reminded Mom that if we took the papers in, we'd give it away. Another seminary family had hipped us to this opportunity, warning Mom that the highest and most holy rule was secrecy. Let on, and the jig would be up. keep your cover, and your family would eat a free meal at a restaurant once a week and earn an easy $25 for the extra time we'd spend researching conditions on the ground. Mom said, "When you entered, did an associate greet you within 30 seconds?" Mom read from one of the sheets, prompting us, "Did they smile?" I made half-hearted attempts to memorize the question list. I was about 12. Half-hearted, right? Adam's face turned determined, and he obediently recited our marching orders. Is the food visually appealing? Served at the proper temperature? We were hungry and ready for espionage. Mom stuffed the papers in the padded console between the front seats, and we embarked across the parking lot, whispering the survey questions under our breath. Everyone had to order something different so we could sample a variety from the menu. Both the men's and women's restrooms needed to be visited so we could be sure they were amply stocked with liquid soap, that the sink areas were tidy, that the cashier thanked us at the end of our transaction. Adam's eyes darted from side to side. If there was a double agent behind the Lee's red Formica counter, Adam would be the one to root them out. He was too professional to say it aloud, but you could tell his 7-year-old mind was racing with the phrase, "act casual." Much of Adam's life up to this point had involved ingesting cartoons, and almost all of them involved some sort of covert task force situation. This is the 80s. Wearing stonewashed jeans and a Cosby-style sweater to fit his first-grade frame, no one could be more prepared for this mission than my brother. At our booth, we tore into our barbecue and fried chicken sandwiches and scooped coleslaw and mashed potatoes out of little styrofoam pots. Dad paid in cash. We had to go to Lee's exactly once every 10-day period and never the same day of the week on consecutive weeks. In no time, we'd memorize the 50-question survey due after each visit. And Adam and I could tick them off in the rote way we were now ticking off the Bible verses we were asked to memorize in school. By Christmas, we were so conversant in the questions and in the menu that we were improvising. "Can I have gravy on the green beans?" he'd ask. We had to work our way through the entire menu, which meant that someone had to order something called livers and gizzards every 5th trip, and we nominated Dad. Can I tell how that one ends?
Yeah.
It didn't work out. We did this for a long time, or like 5 months, maybe, a long time. And then my parents sort of abused the system and the rules, and we were going all the time. I said in that passage we were only allowed to go every so many days, but they were into it, and we were all into it, and we went too often, and we got kicked out. So
There's a fascinating passage, Amanda, where and there's so much in the book where you have these contradictory views on things, and your views change about things over time, and you say so powerfully, people are not their parents, and you talk about how, you come to realize, like, despite what you were raised with and this chaotic scene, that you are independent. You're different from them. And then, like 2 pages later, you say, people indeed are their parents. And you start to realize the way, especially as you get older and get closer to the age they were when you were a kid, that you are sort of heading down these same chutes, and exhibiting some of the behaviors, or at least, just recognizing glimpses of yourself in them and who they were. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, it's a question I haven't answered yet, and it's one that I would say it was a belief that I really held for a long time. I would look at the way my parents operated, and when I say that, I mean like the way they didn't pay their bills, the way they operated. And my whole life, I thought, well, I'm not like that. I'm different. I'm my own person. And I do pay my bills, and I am different in those ways. But it's been so fascinating to be, frankly, middle-aged now, and to look back and see how my parents were handling things and how I'm handling things. My dad, so I just turned 47. The whole run-up to this book has been, when I was 46. And my father was 46 when we dumped our 6,800 square foot mansion, and he decided to become a Lutheran pastor at that point in his life. And I've thought of that a lot. It was all pretty crazy, but it was brave too, And I think about myself moving, to a new place, starting graduate school effectively, an entirely new, not just career, but like identity. We became a clergy family in 1989, in the middle of nowhere. And it's been fun to look at my parents that way too.
I think that's something we can all relate with, is just the sense of as we get older, identifying with our parents more and more, and kind of understanding them in new ways, having this new perspective. I have more questions for you, but let me just turn to the audience and see what questions might be out there for Amanda. I know the book came out today. If anyone has already read the whole thing cover to cover, I'll be impressed. but still, you might. Does anyone have any questions for Amanda at this time? Yeah, let me in the back here. We're going to bring the mic to you so the people watching online can also hear you.
Hello, everybody. At one point, did you really identify who you were in this quest? Being a writer, I carry my brief everywhere I go. Every chance I get, I write something down. Could you share with the rest of the writers in here how you became involved in this journey of building your confidence daily? And then I would like to know also, what is your astrological sign?
Great questions. I'm just going to repeat them. What's your name, sir?
Wendell.
Wendell?
Wendell Phillips.
Thank you, Wendell. Just to repeat the questions to make sure everyone online can hear too. What your journey as a writer, and sort of this, I love what Wendell said, carrying a notebook with him every day, and as ideas come into his head, writing them down, just kind of always having that close at hand. Is that a practice you've been involved with over the last few years as this book came together? And then also your astrological sign.
Yeah, I'll start with that one because I don't know much about it other than I'm a Cancer, born in July. So hopefully that's helpful, a helpful lens to some people on how and why I came to this point. But in terms of writing, I think I was talking about this before, but the 826 network of youth writing centers was so meaningful in my life. I watched that program and our work in this community and the work all over the country with adult volunteers sitting with young people, 6 to 18 usually, and encouraging them with their writing. And we have to know, in any given classroom, not every young person is going to publish a book or become a newspaper journalist or write professionally. But writing is just so important. I have learned to understand writing as a way of thinking, and I feel like my book came from a lot of thinking about my family and my life, and thinking on paper, and writing very casually, being unafraid to write really bad stuff, because you have to start that way. You have to start just getting it out and kind of keep going. And so writing is really important to me. Kind of always has been. But 826 sharpened that idea for me.
Yeah, I would add, I'm come to you in a second. I would just add that, not every great book is published by Simon & Schuster and is on bookshelves nationwide, as your book is starting today. But there's great books that are written in notebooks, written on on laptops, written at libraries, that are important, and they're important for the person that wrote them, And
life-changing, in fact.
Life-changing.
The act of writing.
Absolutely. That is the great act, and that's what deserves congratulations to anyone that's completed a book, no matter what the reach is. What your name and your question?
Hey, Amanda, hi. Congratulations. I'm so excited to read the book. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, I'm Shalonda.
Hi, Shalonda.
Hi. If you could talk a little bit about any passages you really struggled to include, or anything that you decided not to include because it was just too close to the bone. And if you kept everything in, what kind of process you went through to sort of include those challenging pieces.
Well, there are things that I omitted, which I'm not going to talk about because I decided to omit them. But my parents did even more outrageous things than are in this book, but I thought it was kind of outrageous enough as it stands. But some of the things that they did and that we did together felt, in the end for me, private or like things that would automatically cast them in a fully negative light that I didn't really want to cast, because I don't actually think that's fair, because it's not the big picture. So as a writer, I think you have to select things, and I was really trying to do this with this book, is to be accurate and to be real about what we lived together and who they were and who I am and how I saw it. So the aberrations that are out there, the bad days, don't really belong in this story for me. So there are some things cut out, but when you asked about, I think, Shalonda, you asked what I omitted, but then you asked what was hard to do, and what was hard was the end, because those years at the end were really hard years. And I remember I'd been working on the book for a year and 3/4 or so, and I remember I said chronological. I was going like from when they got married, basically, in 1975, and I got up to about, 2012 or so, and that's when things got really, really challenging for me, for my husband and daughter, and for those of us dealing with my parents, and for my parents. And I remember getting to that point and saying to a couple of friends who were helping me and reading along the way, like, maybe I'm done. Like, maybe this is all I needed to do is write that part, because it really did feel hard to face those things. And in the end, I got some encouragement, and I think I needed to finish. I just got maybe tired toward the end.
One really painful moment toward the end of the book. Part 5 takes place in Ann Arbor and surrounding communities, and your parents are at a stage in their life where they're in and out of the hospital, really needing intensive caretaking and caregiving like near constantly, and you're the one to provide that, and they're both in the hospital one day, and you kind of imagine, what if I just left them here and stopped coming back to sort of attend to their every need, and you decide not to do that, not to abandon them. You find the strength, the reserve to just stay with them. How did you, in that, knowing what you'd been through, and how was it that you kept coming back to them and kept finding ways to support, even in their most troubled times, when the load was the heaviest, probably?
Yeah.
Because I think
That's a good question.
I think I'm going through that some with my folks right now, and I know probably other people in this room may be a bit the same too. I mean, it's easier for me. My folks are a little different from yours, and it's easy to repay the love and kindness they gave to me. But at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot to be in that role.
It's a lot. I mean, anybody who's cared for older folks or sick folks knows it can be very, very demanding and thankless and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there was one point when they were each on a different floor in a hospital in Pontiac, and I was in the parking lot going, what am I doing here? Like, this is so hard. I would much rather start the car and leave this scene of difficulty. And I didn't leave that day. I don't know that I knew how to do anything else, so I don't want to take any credit for sticking around. I will say one thing I've really learned in the experiences that I've had caring for them and being involved in some tough times, I think you never know what you're going to do until you're in that situation. And sometimes it's a day by day or hour by hour thing where you're just like, I'm just going to get through this thing. And the thing that was maybe toughest about some of those choices is that people are often quick to say, other people I'm talking about in your life can be quick to say, well, you should have done this other extra thing. Or people are sometimes as quick to say, well, gosh, you're really doing quite a bit for your parents. Couldn't they do that on their own? And so the judgment and the speculation that other people make about what you ought to do with your caregiving or whatever choices you're making, that's the hard part. That was the hard part for me. And I think everybody just has to do what they can. I feel like I did my best. My best was not perfect, but you have to I hope we can all assume other people are doing their best. That's my.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, likewise, the answer has been to have grace with myself. If there's times when I feel like I'm falling short, is to say, well, you can't do everything all the time. You can do the best you can in the moment, and sometimes that's not enough, and sometimes it is. So
Yeah.
let's see a couple more audience questions, and I'm gonna pass this around. Oh yeah.
I think it's best that we give everyone enough time to purchase a book and get that book signed. So how about we give a round of applause to Davy and Amanda Uhle.
Thank you. Let me punch home a couple last things. We do have a lot of people here eager to get books signed, and so I appreciate that.
Yes.
Amanda is heading out on a huge book tour. It's
Huge.
very rare for, so it's excited. One great way we can support that is by checking out the list of cities that she's heading to. She's going to some of the premier bookstores in some of the best cities in the country. All of us have friends scattered around the country. Let's let them know that she's headed their way with this great book and great events with a lot of great speakers lined up to present with you. And so what's the best way for people to find out about the tour? Do you want to just name some of the cities even?
Yeah,
Where are you
I'm
headed
going to
next?
be, next I'm in Kalamazoo, so that's drivable. So on Thursday night, I'll be in Kalamazoo, and then a little break for Labor Day weekend, and then I'm kind of heading out. So I'll be in Chicago, Milwaukee. In Brooklyn, I'll be with our mutual friend Isaac Fitzgerald. I'm going to Politics and Prose in D.C. after that. I think it's like 18 or some. It's
City
a lot
Lights
of places.
in San Francisco.
City Lights.
Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, my
where's
website
is what's
is
the website?
My name, AmandaUhle.com. So
UHLE?
was that your question, Joe?
Yeah.
UHLE.
Just go to her name, AmandaUhle.com.
You got
That's
it.
got the full list of cities, bookstores. Check it out. Take a minute to look at all the cities she's headed to. That's a great way to support an author that's going out on the road and ready for adventure.
Really appreciate it.
And beyond that, there's other ways. If you go online and once you read this book and love it, as I do, you may feel moved to write a review online. And if you don't feel moved, do it anyway, because the truth is, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and it's crazy how much that means in terms of a book sale and getting out there in the world. Because a lot of books are widely read and yet have like 12 online reviews, and so you're high ranking and you're a couple sentences of what you love best about the book. Other hundreds, probably truly thousands and tens of thousands of other people will pop the book up on a website, and they'll see that review and they'll feel moved to check it out. And it's a great book, worth checking out. So just think about little ways like that you can support the book. I'm going to pass this around. This is my email list. Found. We're doing some more events coming up. This American Life. We've got some special guests coming to town over the next few months. Let me pass this around too, and I hope you'll put your name and email on here, and I'll keep you posted about some of the events we got coming up in the next year. Amanda, what were you about to say?
I just wanted to thank some people, starting with you, Davy. Thanks for hosting this. You were
Oh,
so
a
good.
true
Can we
honor.
thank Davy?
True honor to
Yay! You were good.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
good. I've sat in that chair before. I know you're very good. I also wanted to thank Literati Bookstore. They have been an advocate for this book and a help forever. So I hope anyone buying a book anytime buys it from Literati or other small independent bookstores around the country. They're so important. They're important, I think, to our economy, our culture, everything. I could go on, but I won't. And I also wanted to thank a couple of people. It sounds like Amy Somerton is not here, but she is owed great thanks for her encouragement and support for years and years and years. I also want to thank Jenny Treg, who's here. Jenny is the greatest. Jenny was an editor for me, page by page, and encouraged me in the most profound ways. And Jenny is a memoirist herself and an amazing writer. Check out Jenny's books, too. So thank you, Jenny. And I want to thank one more person. Brian Dice is here. Brian is sitting in the fourth row here. Brian came all the way from San Francisco, and so did Bibi. Brian is the president of the board of McSweeney's, where I work most of the time. And I just want to thank Brian because he not only came this evening, but he is stepping in and helping me have this book tour. So he is being the interim executive director of McSweeney's for the month of September, which is if you don't know how hard it is to get a little time off from a nonprofit job, it's kind of hard. And it's
Critical.
only possible because heroic people like Brian step in this way. So thanks, Brian. Everybody support Brian, buy him a
That's
drink.
awesome.
Yes.
And I know it's this community really that has supported you and your work for so long, and just in the ways you've given so much to this community, Amanda. So it's made me happy to look across this room, see familiar, wonderful faces, and just know that this is a special community that we live in. That
It's
can
very
champion a
special.
book like this.
Yeah, I'm honored beyond words to see all these faces here. Thank you all. So great night. Okay, book signing, etc.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Get a copy of the book. Come on over. Amanda will be right over here at this table. Make sure you get a copy for her to sign. And congratulations.